Hello everyone, hope your Thanksgiving is going well. So today I wanted to talk about what we have stored for us in the very near future, I would say. And we're going to be going through what phones can do now and what they're probably going to be able to do in the very near future, and what you have to do as a real estate photographer to keep ahead of that curve, because this is a threat. Don't click away from this video because you don't like to hear this or you don't believe it's true. This is a threat, okay? If you're doing like HDR style photos, as we're going to get into, this is going to become a very big threat to you, okay? That's just the truth, and it's not because I'm biased or anything. It's just because that's what I believe. All right, so let's just scroll through here. Let's use some of Samsung's nice marketing material. And the reason we're looking at video here is because just to show you how powerful these phones are, okay? The power in the video really gives you a good idea of what these phones can do, as we're going to talk about. So these phones, these little phones you hold in your hand, they have 8K, and that's quite amazing. And you can take video with these phones in 8K and just extract photos from that video, really nice photos, high resolution photos. Let's just go through here. We're just getting an idea right now what phones can do, just to sort of start our conversation off. So let's just see some of the highlights here. So one of the things, let's see, what is this one about? One of the things, so this is like a frames per second type deal. So right on your phone, you're able to get really powerful slow motion. It's showing right there 120 frames per second. You can, this is to me one of the most indicative things just in regards to the power of these phones nowadays. So if you think about what these phones are doing when they do stuff like this, some of these I don't really like, but some of them are cool. Like, let's just take this one. So you can have one of these phones and you can look at this scene right here on the back of your phone. So it's doing it in real time. So what is going on here, and you guys are photographers, so you actually know what's going on here even if you don't. This is all being masked out in every frame. So the AI, or whatever you want to call it, is masking her, and it's keeping the color on her, and it is putting the background black and white, okay? So it's not only able to mask, that's a job in itself. Okay, I have to mask something just automatically. That's a job in itself, like say in Photoshop, just pressing a button and say, oh, can you mask the person in this photo? That's a pretty big job. Okay, and it looks like it's doing a pretty good job here. I think it helps that they that there's this white background right there. They probably did that on purpose. But anyway, it's doing it in real time, and it's doing it at say 24 or 30, maybe even higher frames per second, and it's processing this in the phone. So this is stuff we don't see in our market, in software for photography. We don't see anything this powerful, and the reason is because markets for phone, I mean, just think of Apple, just think of the markets for phones. I mean, it's so powerful. So you have the biggest and best and highest paid people working on this stuff. You don't necessarily have those same people working on like Photoshop, or whatever. So it's a different market. It's a much more lucrative market. So they're able to dump all this money into the research. So the point of this right here to show you this is just that phones are going to get much, much better very fast, and it's already happening right now. I mean, you can't even buy software that does stuff like this that's in these phones. It's all proprietary stuff that they hold in there, and it's very, very impressive stuff. All right, so this is the thing we're talking about, where you can shoot 8K and just grab a photo, just any, that's pretty impressive, and it's nice and clean. So now we're getting more into the photo part of it, maybe. Just getting an idea here though. So this is another thing we'll talk about in the presentation, the stability, right? So this might have applications for video, of course, those of you who are doing video. I don't know why I'm getting a little hung up there. There we go. All right, so anyway, I think you're getting an idea of just the zooming capabilities. This is something too, and I know Huawei, the Chinese company, is really coming out with some pretty astounding stuff with the zoom on their phones. And this is something we're really going to take a close look at, because this has huge applications for us. Now, there are situations where you can have virtually no light with these phones, and you're holding a camera handheld, there's no light, and it's taking, say, 30 exposures, and it's melding them all together, and it's putting together a fairly sharp photo. You can see his arms blurry there and stuff, but we're going to talk more about that. And this is maybe another example where you can actually get a photo handheld. Can you already see, if you're ahead of me, the applications here for a real estate photographer, right? It's Twilights, right? They're just doing handheld, exteriors when the light gets nice. And you can even do them later when there's no light. I mean, it's just crazy, all right? So, yeah, so it's almost endless. I mean, we'll just stop there. Okay, we made it. Okay, let's go. I have a little presentation. And so what can phones do now? We just saw they do this low light and handheld and multiple exposure thing where it's sort of a good version or an advanced version of HDR, where it's taking all these photos that were held by a very shaky hand, and it's kind of lining all those up for you. And then it's creating a pretty sharp photo, a pretty decent photo when there's just very minimal amounts of light. So that's quite amazing, and I think Huawei is probably the leader in this technology. We can look at something here. This guy made a blog and just talking about Huawei, and he has an actual example here of, that's why I chose this one. So he has an actual example of an architectural image. So he's going out here and there's basically no light. It looks like there's a street lamp behind him or something. Let's just see if we can zoom in a little there. And yeah, so you guys can sort of get an idea. He's hand holding this camera. If you had a nice exterior with the lights on and all that stuff was looking good, I mean, you're not going to have much control of the colors and stuff. So, and we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff, but you could feasibly get exterior Twilights handheld, right? It's very easily with this technology. And let's try and zoom in on that Huawei photo. This is with very, very little light, if you guys can see that, all right? So if you look in there, and it is looking pretty good. Okay, so low light capabilities. We talked about the masking capabilities, and the reason I looked at the video is just because everyone, that's so easy. I mean, that's so difficult, the video masking. So when they need to mask in, say, a sky and a picture of a house, that's like a child's play. You understand? That's like nothing. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute here, because I think what the real point there is, when there's enough requests come into these programmers for, say, to mask in skies, and they've already gotten that, but to say do verticals, which we're going to talk about later, enough people write to iPhone, all my shots of the houses outside, all the lines are all messed up. And when they get that at request enough, you think those programmers are going to have a hard time writing some script to make verticals straight? Okay, no, they're not going to have a problem with that at all. This stuff is thousands of times more complicated than just making verticals. So we'll get into that. Okay, we talked about the frames per second and all the stuff that these phones can do, sky replacements. And I really think the point here is that phones are sort of ahead of the game, and the reason is that the market is so strong because people are everyone has a phone, right? Everyone wants a high-end phone. So that's where all the research and money and sort of high-end avant-garde development is going, okay? So if some of you are reading ahead, what will phones be able to do in the future? That's the big question, right? What will phones be able to do? So for sure, verticals. For sure, this is just like, it's not even, it's probably, there's phones that already do this. I don't know, but I'm not a very phone tech, but I just know what phones are going to be able to do. But yeah, verticals, that's going to be a joke for somebody to write something and program it so phones can do verticals. So no problem, interiors and exteriors, right? It's going to be doing verticals. So I don't need to type that, interiors and exteriors. So the Twilights as well. So what are we going to have resulting from this? We're going to have well exposed handheld interiors and exteriors with verticals adjusted from the camera. All right, that's what we're going to have. It's coming, okay? That's going to be real soon. And I think this is actually one of the big things that sort of I would say saving us right now, saving the average real estate photographer, because these phones don't have it. I really believe this. If they had this right now, you know, you could be in trouble. Realtors photos would look pretty darn good if the phones would just do this one thing, okay? But they don't. I haven't seen that they do. Although you could probably download an app. But the problem is, realtors don't even know that that's why their photos look bad. So maybe those are your saving graces, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about at the end here. What is your saving grace, okay? So what are the problems with the phones? So colors, it's still a problem. And a lot of the phones are going to try and purposely, because what do phones do? They try and push things to make their phone look better than the other guys, right? So in general, there would be a photo of a sunset. Well, the phone's going to try and make it look more dramatic than the iPhone or the Samsung, because all these people do these reviews online now. That's how things get compared. So they're pushing saturation for sure, pushing contrast, but they're pushing colors, and that's going to actually be a problem with the phones, right? That's a problem, because we get a little green on our ceilings, we get a little blue in the shadows in our interiors. It's going to exacerbate that. So this is our saving grace, I would say. Another one is composition, all right? So, guys, I mean, I know you might think this is silly, but it's just, this is what I really believe. So these two things, how do you take care of this? Lighting, right? If you're out there and you're doing HDR right now, you gotta be looking into this stuff, even if it's just it's like seriously self-preservation, not even making nicer photos. Composition, all right? You gotta composition, I think, comes with a few key concepts, and then you sort of develop your own taste, your own style, your own flair. So these two things, composition and lighting, well, we talk about composition in the Quit Your Job course. We talk a lot about lighting. And if you make your way through the course, guys, these courses are what, $50, $60. You make your way through the course, there's going to be other courses going deeper into more depth, how to get in there and really understand how to light spaces the most efficient way and the best possible way with a single frame, all right, a single lighting frame. And let's just use this one as an example, all right? If we had an iPhone right here, right, it wouldn't look nearly as good, okay? We might be getting some green from this tree up here, all right? And it would saturate that. And the verticals would be thrown off, right? Because the phones don't do the verticals yet. But your saving grace is the lighting, don't forget, and that composition. And those are two things that can definitely be taught. So you're going to be sort of ahead of that iPhone game. You got to get out ahead of that. You got to see this coming and get out ahead of it. And so whether it's, use my courses or somebody else's, you got to be getting into lighting. You got to be doing this stuff quick, because I really think as we move on, sort of being faster as a photographer is going to be really important too. I think it already is. And yeah. So there you go. And of course we have all sorts of I have 4 courses, and this one is on sort of more advanced lighting techniques where you're looking at how to light spaces, but it's not really related to real estate photography, okay? So just more higher end photos, okay? So yeah, that's my take on that. Let me go back there just in case I had a few last thoughts. I think you gotta stay ahead of it. You gotta get ahead of this stuff. You gotta see it coming, and it definitely is coming. I mean, we're talking in a year, whatever, on a very short time frame, okay? So we do have these saving graces. There is no way in the world that a phone can compete with lighting. All right? There's no way. It cannot. That's the saving grace, okay? This is why Hollywood, this is why they use huge lights. When you go on a Hollywood set, you see these huge lights everywhere. That's because they can't get that anywhere else. They cannot process that into their photo. They cannot get that warmth, that look, that this, that. They cannot. So lighting, you need it. That's your edge. Lighting. It's 100% true. A phone cannot beat that lighting. It's going to be clean. It's going to be color consistent. It's going to be all that good stuff. And get in there with the composition. We talk about that in the Quit Your Job course. The sort of basics that get you started with composition. Just how to be moving through houses in real estate photography. Not spending too much time with your composition, because that's a killer too. But getting in there and having these general principles that I use to this day, and it's going to have you be going quickly, with your composition and yet be getting, you're going to be avoiding those really awkward compositions that I see all the time. All right, so you don't want to have those really awkward sort of just slightly off a 1-point composition. Stuff like that's real no-no. All right, so yeah, and if you're interested in the courses, you can just use the PayPal link right here. You can just click it and pay, or I do accept Bitcoin now, but you got to get in touch with me. All right, so because I'm not so slick and have that all set up where it's automatic. The PayPal, everything's automatic. All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and happy holidays. All right, see you for the next one.